Emma Frame here, and welcome to Voices of Yoga podcast, co-hosted with Lindsay Porter, where we bring you inspiring yoga stories and insights from yogis and teachers from around the world. These stories highlight the benefits of yoga and encourage those who maybe haven't started yoga yet to get started, and for the more experienced to delve deeper. We hope you enjoy. Today, I'm absolutely delighted to have on the show Siobhan Fitzgerald. Siobhan is a yoga teacher and has been teaching for over 15 years, based in Drimmen in Scotland. She is also a Ayurvedic therapy tutor, and her specialty area in the yoga world is actually Pranayama. So absolutely delighted to have you. Welcome to the show, Siobhan.
Happy to be, Emma.
Brilliant. So, what we like to do when we start our Voices of Yoga, and we're very much about yoga stories and inspiring people. So our listeners are always interested to hear about how teachers become teachers and also how yoga enters their life. So I'm wondering if you can share that personal story with us.
Sure, I'd love to, absolutely. I first started doing yoga when I was 26. So that was 1996. I had my first class, and that was through a client of mine who was very insistent that I came to her classes. And up until then, any exercise, anything that I did was usually gym-based, swimming, walking. I'd never ever considered doing yoga. I thought it was something that was boring. I thought it was something that was for old people, hippies, whatever. That was my impression of what it was. And this elderly lady, Joanne, said to me, because she used to come in as a client, she said, Siobhan, if you don't come this evening, then I won't come back for my treatments either at your salon. So I got home and I thought, I better go. I better just appease this woman and go down. So I was living in Partick at the time, and off I went to this hatha yoga class with Joanne. And it was challenging. I found it really difficult. The first thing we did do in the class, we sat and we did breathing for 20 minutes. And then we did posture, then we did asana, and lay down at the end, the traditional shavasana. And of course, this is all really, really new to me. It was my first class. But I'll remember it, and I'll never, ever have that, that it was just something, a light bulb went on. I just had that moment from that first class, and that was that I felt different. And I remember walking home, I felt calm, I felt at peace, and I felt different. So I didn't diss it. I kept going back after that. Eventually, I was going to Joanne's house as well, and I was with her for about 4 years. And in those 4 years, it really did what yoga does. It settled my mind. It really grounded me. And it just took off in my life after that. I got to the stage, I think maybe 4, 5, 6 years in, where it was a daily practice. It had become a daily practice for me. By then, I'd gone into Ashtanga and developed a practice with Ashtanga. But for me, that was the thing. And there were a lot of disruptions in my childhood, an awful lot of travelling. I think I must have gone to about 14 different primary schools, some of them even twice. With my dad's job, we were in New Zealand, we were in Canada, we were back in the UK, we were down in England, we were back up in Scotland, we were back over in Canada again. I was constantly, as a child, every 6 months, making new friends. I was always the new person, and I think that affected me a lot, going into my teenage years, a lot of that stuff from our childhood definitely, it manifests in adulthood. A lot of those issues that were there, my parents split up as well, and then my mum moved away, so she was in the south of Ireland and my dad was here, and pretty much both of them dysfunctional. There wasn't much hugging or grounded emotion, even though, they were two smart people with two good jobs, and I had 3 brothers, so, we had our own dynamic. We're very, very close. But I think my really strong pull, especially with pranayama, is how grounding that was for me, and how through all that disruption, and unsettled times in my childhood, that it's the one thing that I could just take every day, and put that on a mat every day, and then just go out and do my job and be around my good friends and be happy, and be happy in myself. And that was the one thing that childhood didn't teach me, because there were so many disruptions. It was almost like I didn't get the chance for anything to ever settle in my life to be the norm. It was always a new norm and a new norm and a new norm. And I think for me, if you're asking why I do yoga, why it's something that I teach back now, I see that now. I see that in other people. I see how disruptive their life can be. I see how much mental health issues there are in the world and all around me. I teach in college full time now, teach complementary therapies. And, there's a growing percentage of people in my classes with mental health issues. And I know that's from a combination of different things. But, very much when I start doing some breathing with them, or I'm teaching them Ayurvedic principles, they get it,
Great.
They're more, they want more of it, that they're saying this works, this is a tool that works, and they feel it. So for me, that's wonderful that I can give that back.
And I think from your own personal experience, they can take it from you because you know firsthand the sort of calmness that you've received from a yoga practice, that you can pass that on to them as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think it enables me to see it in them much quicker than I ever would do before. You're almost blinkered to that when you're in it yourself.
Of course.
You don't recognise it in other people. But when you've been there and you've come out of it, you definitely see it, and you see it. I find I just see it quicker and quicker and quicker. And I can do something, or I can say something that can maybe make a difference,
Well, it's a great story for advocating yoga, isn't it? It does exactly what it says on the tin. Yeah. It helps you feel different, and your first experience, it's great for somebody to experience yoga in that way. It's like a light bulb moment that it just makes a difference from the very, very first class, which is inspiring. Yeah. Great. And you mentioned that you did hatha yoga to begin with. And I know from seeing you practice, you have an amazing Ashtanga practice yourself. For those who aren't familiar with those terms, can you give a short sort of description of the difference between the two? Because there's a lot of styles and choices out there and people get confused.
There are so many styles and choices out there. And your traditional hatha yoga is to do with encompassing those 8 limbs of yoga in its entirety, So with hatha yoga classes, that there always is a nice balance. Hatha is the masculine and the feminine energy, and they're very much brought together. Swatmarama, who wrote the Hatha Pradipika, is very much, of that way of finding that balance through the breath, through different asanas, through being mindful of how we treat ourselves, how we treat each other, and you'll get quite a rounded amount of the balance of those within a hatha yoga class. There might be some meditation in it. There'll be breathing practices that are done in a hatha class, and there'll be asana practices, usually done very, very gently. I know when I do hatha yoga now, traditionally when I go out to India and do it as part of the institute that I train with, we do a lot of those asana practices with our eyes closed, which is interesting and very different. That's another take on it again, where you're really internalizing the movement with the eyes closed and internalizing how you feel, and therefore maybe stopping you from going too far, that you're more aware of what you're doing exactly and how you should be moving. So that's a lovely, lovely thing. And sometimes if I am teaching a hatha yoga class, I will incorporate that into it as well.
That's a great idea.
Now, Ashtanga is very different because it's very flowing and it's very dynamic, and it takes a set of postures, and it very much uses a different type of breathing, which we use is Ujjayi breathing, and this Ujjayi breathing creates what we call a tapas in the system. And this tapas is to burn out impurities. So people really grab on to that Ashtanga yoga practice because of its dynamicism and its fast track to how they feel and how their body feels and how it changes. Um, Traditionally, Ashtanga yoga, those postures all still come from Hatha yoga traditions. They're all these asanas. It's just the way it's been developed and put together, so that we have a sequence, and people quite like to follow something, and have something that's a set discipline, because that disciplines them as well. So with Ashtanga yoga, you're getting on your mat every morning, you're doing a set sequence, and then the traditional philosophy behind that is that we cut out where our system says stop. That's enough for you today. You have to work on that. You have to work on developing that. And once the body says yes, then traditionally the teacher then gives the next posture and the next posture. So there are different series within Ashtanga of developing those postures and going into the next level, and the next level when you're ready. Okay. For me, going out to India and just immersing myself in traditional Ashtanga yoga for 4 months in one go, you can develop quite quickly. But out there, even the risk is that we want to do everything so quickly with Ashtanga. Traditionally, actually, it should be slower. It should be a longer practice than what it's taught in the West. We try and teach it in an hour's class. We try and teach it in an hour and 20 minutes. Really, actually, it should probably take you the best part of 3 hours if you're doing a full primary series by using the breath correctly, because the breath should probably be about 6 seconds in, 6 seconds out. And that gives the nervous system time to settle. It gives the nervous time, the lungs time to develop. It gives the nervous system time to adjust, so that when we go into deeper postures, we accept them both by the mind and by the body, rather than them being forced. But the thing about Ashtanga yoga is it definitely has that burning, that tapas, that getting rid of impurities a lot quicker. That Ujjayi breathing that we use in Ashtanga yoga is a traditional Hatha yoga kriya. It's something that we do to remove impurities naturally from the system. And so the difference between the two being, one is, very, very much Hatha yoga is a lot more grounded and a lot more balanced in its approach, I would say, compared to Ashtanga yoga, which is a lot more dynamic. It will release stuff and give us that liberation that the body's looking for, which can make it very, very attractive. Traditionally speaking, it's suitable usually only to one of the 3 doshas in Ayurveda, which is the Kapha dosha, people who are very sluggish in nature, to help to burn that off and get them moving and get them feeling more in balance. Whereas your other 2 Ayurvedic natures of Vata and Pitta ironically thrive on Ashtanga yoga, because their nervous system's getting even more agitated, or they're getting more and more heat in their body, and they kind of feed off it when they should maybe need something that's a bit more cooling and a bit more soothing for their systems.
That totally makes sense. If people could understand the aspects of Ayurvedic in that sort of setup, but as you say, it does attract. I feel a lot of the hot yogas and the Ashtangas do attract that very Vata type,
they do
type person.
Vata type and A type
Yes,
people as
performance.
well, very, very driven by it, you know, the achievements of getting to that next level and getting to that next place with it. Which is not what yoga is about actually at all, you know.
No. So somebody who hasn't done yoga, then advice maybe start with a nice hatha grounded all-rounder class, and then depending on where you go from there, Ashtanga could come into your practice maybe at a later date.
Well, yes, absolutely. You know, I think recognizing what the breathing's doing is a really good foundation for people, is to get a bit of that through doing hatha yoga. The other flip side of that is going to a very good Ashtanga teacher with very good knowledge and starting from scratch and learning that sequence from scratch can be a beautiful journey for that person as well. But I think throwing someone with no yoga knowledge into the middle of an Ashtanga class, which is too advanced for them, can really disturb their nervous system and maybe counteract what should be gained from that as a practice as well. And it is a beautiful practice when it's treated in the right way, you know.
Great. That's a great bit of advice there. And obviously we have touched on the fact that all of these therapies and philosophies all are interconnected, both mind and body.
Absolutely.
So I'd love to go back to what you were talking about in terms of your journeys in India. You mentioned that you are very much specialising in pranayama, which for those who don't know are the breathing aspects of the yoga. So I'm really interested to know what you've been doing in India. I've been hearing about it for such a long time, and I'd really love to know what you're doing. Yeah, so if you could share that.
Well, 18 of us graduated, so 18 on that journey together for the last 3 years in India. We were going out for intense weeks, 7 to 10 days at a time. We were working with a whole host of people that were specialists in their field in India, that were guest teachers, guest lecturers at the Ayurvedic and Traditional Institute, the Kavalia Dam Institute. Now, I met Tawariji, my teacher, in 2004 in Thailand. He was part of a teacher training that I did out there with Paul Dallahan at Samahita. And that's where I really got into all this pranayama, and that's where Tawariji actually took a hold of me at that point. That I'd been doing yoga for about 9 years at that point. He gave me a right good shake, changed my diet, got me doing cleansing practices, and I just changed completely to a level where I never knew I was going back to that person that I was. That happened then. So Tawariji I'd been with for the last 14, 15 years now, practicing with, meeting him every year, going through a lovely couple of weeks with him where he's holding the reins with all of us. What he was doing was taking our pulses, diagnosing our doshas and our pranic, you know, what's going on in my body, what's going on just now, what elements are at play, and then giving me a prescription. And that prescription was the thing that kept me in balance and kept my system in balance. So those pranayama practices would be a combination of breathing practices, cleansing practices, and he might even have written in his notes, you should get massage, or you should make sure you're doing this or drinking this tea. So there'd be little bits of Ayurvedic therapy in there as well. And that's exactly what happened when we went out to do our course. Tawariji's he's not travelling the way he used to worldwide. He wants to drop his students into little areas in their parachutes down into where they live and feed that back into the community wherever they are. So that was 18 of us, not one person from the same part of the world. We all knew each other because we'd all been on that journey with Tawariji and met at various locations throughout the years. So that was beautiful in itself. We worked with surgeons, the surgeon in particular from Delhi, who was also a yoga therapist, and he had that parallel of, this is what I see when I'm operating on people. This is the same philosophy that we see in the chakra system. It's the same that we see when we're doing the breath work on the body. That those channels are things that, blood and air and other things work through. But you're on a yoga therapy journey. So, he would teach us this. We'd have scientists on board. We'd be in labs testing different breathing practices, seeing what was happening to our pulse rate, our heart rate, how we felt before and after things. And the journey also very much started with, it was Tuariji's son, Sudhir, who took us through, and it was at the helm of the teacher training with us. So he did all the pranayama with us. He stripped our practices right back and built everything up again over the last 3 years to a very advanced level. All the cleansing practices. The great thing about that is I've been doing these practices all these years, but to actually get behind that and to learn from philosophers about Hatha Pradipika, Garanda Samhita, other texts, to listen to what is going on, what is the whole purpose of doing these yoga practices in the first place, and how relevant they are in today in modern life, and how the body can go out and how, if it's given the right environment, it can thrive, it can be free of disease. And that's part of working with those Ayurvedic doctors, those doctors of modern Western medicine, allopathic medicine, and also of complementary medicines, working with people that have really studied the scientific evidence behind what's going on in the nervous system, what each individual practice is actually doing, the results of those, from what's in ancient text to what's been proven. So this institute, it's been open a very, very long time. They've been doing research, way back 1913. They started doing research with Swami Kavalananda, and taking that forward into today. They have cancer recovery units there to strengthen people, get rid of toxins, get them to recover so much quicker. They can go on a 3-week program out there. There's a naturopathy centre. They grow all their own herbs in the gardens at the institute. There's an Ayurvedic centre, so the Ayurvedic doctors are there on hand. And all those people were coming in and giving us lectures, as well as the growth that we had through pranayama. So now that I've got my breath mastership, I can do what my teacher's always done for me. I'm doing a monthly mentorship at Merchant City Yoga in Glasgow. And I have a group of about 20 students every month. We've been doing that since last October. I'm about to do one on Sunday, but as a Zoom class with everybody. But we've had about 20 people. And within that group, I'm going around them and I'm taking their pulse and I'm just seeing what their current, this Vikruti, this current state of their system is. And I've had really positive feedback from people just gently introducing these practices to them, and guiding them and just tweaking slightly what it is for each individual, so that they're getting it right, so that they're feeling good, so that they're getting the essence of pranayama. Pranayama for me is a little fast track, from asana. It just puts you straight on that little conveyor belt, to that next level, and it's wonderful.
Okay, congratulations then. That's been a journey for you, but congratulations. It's wonderful to have someone locally in Scotland that has such expertise.
It's just great to give it back now and actually to get that feedback.
And what type of people are coming to you for your training? Are they teachers or are they students, or who's it appealing to?
For the little mentoring group that I do, it can be everybody from people that are just regularly practicing yoga, someone that's picked up on it, that might be suffering from anxiety. I've had people like that, suffering from depression, suffering from anxiety, coming along to see if there's anything they can be doing. I've had people that have been on. I teach on the teacher trainings for CYS, so I've had some of their students that make a point of just coming down and joining that group as well. So it's not necessarily always teachers, yoga teachers, or people on teacher trainings, or people that are just practicing yoga weekly that maybe want to learn a bit more about pranayama. There are people that have done very little yoga, if any, that are also coming in and learning pranayama as well. And from all of them, I can just individualize what's happening and take them to whatever level they should be at. Some people run with it, some people will just take baby steps with it. But everybody's getting what they need out of it, which is what I'm enjoying more than anything. And if they really need more, Emma, then they can come and have a one-to-one at my home, and I can work with them individually, just depending on what I feel that they need. And they're right at that point, because we're changing and evolving all the time, and the practice changes and evolves with us. If we get stagnated and we're just doing the same thing again and again and again, you need those variables put in there just to adjust with you.
And pranayama, being an element of the yoga system, is in the West is often a bit left behind in classes. It's often skipped over, and yet, along with meditation, it's a vital part of the practice.
Absolutely, and it comes in there as the fourth limb. So all your exercise, or asana postures, are the third limb of yoga. And they say that your body should be strong enough and that you should be able to sit still enough to enjoy pranayama, but really, pranayama can also enhance what's happening in asana and postures, because it does clean out a lot. You can sit for meditation a lot more easily if there's some pranayama in your life as well. So it's almost that one that's in the middle between the asana and the meditation, that if we work on that one, then the aspects of either side are very much enhanced, which is what I get out of it as well, is that filters into meditation, becomes a lot easier, because you almost go from basic breathing and pranayama to developing that retention or pratyahara element, where you start to internalize and go within. And that makes the fifth limb, you're going into dharana and dhyana, then fifth, sixth limbs of yoga, a lot easier to manage and to be able to slip into without this chitta. Because as you rightly say, it's this talking in our minds that, can still be active through just doing a very heavy asana practice. And a lot of teacher trainings, they really skim over pranayama. They're very much focused on how we adjust the body in asanas, how many postures we should be doing, how we should be learning them, and maybe a bit of philosophy going in there as well, but very much missing the whole point of the breathing and the whole point of yoga, which is to channelize our energy and regulate those mind thoughts, so that we're a lot clearer.
Of course.
Yeah.
Good. And of course that takes us well into the situation that we're all finding ourselves in, that you mentioned your Zoom trainings now, COVID-19 pandemic. And that it's actually all about respiratory, it's about the breath. And I'm just wondering, we've touched on the connections of it, but I'm just wondering if there's anything that you could share in terms of pranayama, any tips you have that people might be able to put into use during this really stressful time, both physically and emotionally.
There are, and we're finding ourselves at home. We're isolating at home. We're told we're not allowed to go and visit people, and that in itself can be so stressful. Stressful in respect to, trying to even maybe do work like Zoom chats, but you've got your children at home as well, and but it is the new norm, as you say. It is about trying not to get stressed about things that are out with our control, that this is happening. And I think there's that thing that comes through in yoga, which is acceptance of that. And I think this is what people are fighting against, is that they can't accept what's happening. And that brings up the stress element. Things that I read a lovely thing actually from Paul in Yoga Thailand, who was saying, just make sure you don't let go of your sleep throughout this, that you regulate your sleep and you keep that clock, because if we don't get enough sleep, it's part and parcel of yoga practice and Ayurveda. That nourishes us, that allows us to repair and heal so that we wake up happy every morning. So that's the first thing I would definitely agree with, is that you make sure you have that sleep. Think of something happy that you can do every day as well. And then with regards to practices themselves in Ayurveda, what's coming back from India to me as well is the Tulsi tea, the holy basil tea, which is antiviral. So we're talking about a virus here, and we're talking about something that's impacting on our respiratory tract. How do we prevent that for ourselves? What measures can we put in place just to keep ourselves healthy throughout this, and know that we're doing the best that we can? So you've got raw garlic as well, and eating raw garlic. Now, a lot of people say yuck. I've thought about that, and I've thought, well, you can crush it, you can mix it with olive oil and some other herbs and make it into salad dressing. And there you go, there's your raw garlic every day. It's amazing, it purifies, it cleans the blood, it's antiviral, it's antibacterial. So those two things I would put really high up there. Turmeric's another one because it's anti-inflammatory. So keep them every day if you can.
What's the tea? What's the tea?
Tulsi tea. Tulsi tea, it's also known as holy basil.
Right.
You can get it, Puka Herbs do Tulsi tea. You can order it online as well. And I'm hearing that from a lot of different people, Indian teachers that I'm getting little emails from and posts from saying that that's probably the best antiviral thing that we can be doing for ourselves, that we can be taking this.
And turmeric to be taken as a drink?
And turmeric you can take as a drink. Turmeric with warm milk and black pepper. Black pepper enhances the accessibility of turmeric in our system. Okay. Taking that and those three together as a drink, you can add a little bit of honey, make it nice and sweet. Okay, that's good for bringing your stress levels down, because sweetness in Ayurveda tames the nervous system, so it's good for Vata. Okay. What else can we do? If anyone's familiar with the neti pot, then that's the salt nasal wash. That's an excellent thing to be doing on a daily basis just now. If you're getting congested, if there's any mucus in, this is the first line of defense. And to get rid of all that mucus and draw it out by doing neti washes allows those hairs to stand up in the nasal passages. That allows that area to be clean and oxygenated, and it stops things getting further down your respiratory tract. So to be cleansing with a neti pot every day is a wonderful thing.
But it's quite a specialised technique, isn't it? Is that something that they would need to maybe come and see you about or get special advice on?
Well, for neti, I wouldn't say. I mean, it is a traditional kriya. It's called jala neti, jala meaning water. And we use a tiny bit of salt. So you put like half a teaspoon of salt maybe in hot water, and then cool that down and bring it up to body temperature. And you'll know that because if you put your finger in, it kind of feels the same temperature as what you are. People who have got sinusitis, people that have got pollen allergies that have never touched yoga, can use a neti pot. So it's very, very, very safe to do, and there's lots of little videos online for doing this. So that one, I wouldn't do any of the other kriyas on my own, Emma, but that one is one that is used out with the yoga system as well, that people are, finding that if they've got sinusitis, it's just the most wonderful thing, that if they wash and flush that area out, that it cleans right out to your eustachian tubes as well in the front lobe. So we feel a lot clearer from doing that practice. So that's a wonderful thing, and it's a line of defense for us. There are other things that we can do. Kapalabhati's a traditional kriya again, which is the pumping at the lower abdomen, and it's quite a sharp exhale. So we can use that pumping just to stimulate the lungs, and to, again, it's about flushing out. So it's about getting stuff up the respiratory tract and back out of the system before anything gets deeper into the respiratory tract. So Kapalabhati's is quite good for doing that. It also enhances our energy and our well-being. It's a great stress reducer in itself. Again, I would maybe be looking at stuff online for that. I would be maybe asking a teacher how to do that efficiently and properly. But it is a very, very good cleansing practice. And then the other two that go hand in hand are Surya Badain, which is a warming practice. And for all that stress, this one's really, really nice. It's for Vata disorders in the system. Surya Badain. Surya means the sun breath. And what we're doing is breathing in through the right nostril and breathing out through the left nostril. The whole thing about controlling the nerve response in the body is about getting that exhale to become double. So when we breathe in, we might have a 1, 2, 3 count, but then try and get 6 counts out, 6 seconds out with your exhale. And that's cyclical. Because it warms the body, there's another practice that we do with it always, that we follow with. And those two together on a daily basis, there's no harm in doing them because you're not going to any advanced level with them. So I'll say that first of all about those practices. We're not retaining the breath, which is more advanced pranayama and really impacts on your nervous system. We're just breathing in and we're breathing out. Now, there's lots of different stress therapy breathing techniques out there that are maybe used by psychologists, used by other care workers. Surya Badain is just a wonderful, simple practice. In through the right and out through the left, and you would continue that cycle, breathing in through the right nostril and out through the left nostril for double. So that's something that you'll feel will have the ability to warm the system. Again, it's a tapas, so it's soothing and pacifying the nervous system, and it's helping to heat and warm. So that's that purification that we get from pranayama in our system. To offset that, we do shitali, which is a breath where we use the tongue, traditionally like a beak, so we stick the tongue out, and then we breathe in over the tongue and we breathe out through both nostrils. So it has a cooling effect. But the great thing about shitali is, if you read the Hatha Pradikaba and what it does, it says there that any glandular disorders, any temperature, any fever, and also antiviral, they're all the benefits of doing shitali. So it tends to, as a rule, always follow Surya Badain, where we've heated up, we've got rid of some of that tapas, those toxins in the system, and pacified, and then we go in with shitali. Some people can't roll their tongue.
Yes, I'm one of those.
So
a non-roller.
We just keep the tongue in the mouth and we breathe in through the teeth, and we let the air come in through the teeth, and then we exhale through both nostrils. So it's such a simple technique to do. What they're saying, coming out of India, and my teachers are saying, right, up the game now, do it 3 times a day. For someone who's not doing these practices, even doing that once a day is good. If you want to do it in the morning and then you want to do it again in the evening, then absolutely do so. And probably I would say 10 to 15 rounds of each of those practices for that to be effective. And even if you're just sticking with those two, that should take you about 15 minutes. It won't take you that long to do that. The same thing with Shitali is that you are breathing in and breathing out for double.
Right.
So always be mindful of what you're doing when you're counting in and counting out. And if you can, there's a little control on the abdomen that goes with any pranayama practice, and that is that we're accessing the nervous system and everything else through the abdomen. When we breathe in, there's a little bit of control in the abdomen, and when we breathe out, we keep it on. So we're keeping that abdominal very, very gentle, though it's very subtle. It's not forceful in any way. Yoga should never be forceful. So yeah, Shitali is a good one. It also alkalinizes the system. So that breathing in, breathing out, we're reducing acidity in our system, we're alkalinizing it. So again, you've got all those things. Disease can't grow in an alkaline system. It will only thrive in an acidic system. So that, and then just watching your diet, be sensible. It's so easy just now just to hit the sugar bowl.
Yes.
Everybody's baking en masse because they've got the time to do it. And I'm actually here locally. I'm on Bake Sterling, so I'm constantly putting on my own creations. But it's just so easy to just keep going in. But sugar can be quite acidic in your system as well. So offset that. I would say offset that. Do your Shitali practice. So eradicating poisons, viral stuff, alkalinizing. It's good for fever and temperature as well. It's good for purifying the spleen and the liver. So you get an awful lot of good aspects physiologically out of doing that practice as well. So there are a couple of things that we could be doing.
That is so useful. We'll really benefit from that. And from a teacher's point of view, I mean, obviously, a lot of teachers don't have much pranayama within a asana class. Even just if they wanted to introduce something not too deep because it's not a normal for the class to do it.
Yeah.
Just a normal extension of the exhale breath would be useful.
Absolutely. Even if they're just getting them to connect with the abdomen, connect with themselves, breathe in, there's a little thing that I use actually, a little thing that I say to people when they don't know what their breath in or their breath out should be. And that would be just to sit for a moment and then breathe in normally and count your exhale. And whatever your exhale happens to be, if you think, right, normally I can breathe out for 8 seconds and then my breath cuts out, half your inhale. And there you go, you've got your ratio just by doing that very simply. There's no forcing in that at all. It's just sit, give yourself a minute, breathe in, breathe out. So they could do that and just take that into a very gentle count where they're encouraging people to maybe breathe in for 3 counts and breathe out for 6. And maybe then up that to 4, 8, so that they've got a little bit 5, 10, and then maybe bring it back down again, and even do that as a breathwork session with the class is a really, really nice way of introducing some sort of breathing.
And I think people will be open to that at the moment, yes. That's great. Thank you. Some incredible tips there. People will really benefit from that.
I'm doing that.
Yes, well, I'm sure you are.
Every morning now I'm like, right, okay, I'm just upping that Surya Bodhana and Shitali practice right now.
Great, well, we'll be encouraged definitely to do that. So in terms of what inspires you in the yoga world, you've spoken a lot about obviously some very inspirational people. Is there anything in terms of a book or a quote or even a person that you really want to share with listeners that you feel they would be inspired by also?
I'm just so inspired by my own teacher, what he's done, and the books at the Kavalia Dhamma Institute. They are all accessible online. I mean, you can go online and order these books. And if I was to recommend any one book, I would definitely recommend Yoga Therapy. So I've got that here. yoga
Yes.
therapy.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
It is written by Swami Kavaliananda and Dr. Vinegar, who are, founders at the Institute. Well, Kavaliananda is the founder of the Institute. What he says, there's a lovely plaque up when you walk into the Kavalya Dhamma, which says that the East have to do their job. They have to do their job in order to encourage the West to follow. This is, something that he wrote. I mean, he died in 1965, so this was written well before then even. And he said, if the East can't give the West an answer, then the West are doomed, health-wise. So even back then, you could see the destruction that was being done. And his student, my teacher, Tawari G, will always say that we get on the mat every morning to practice dusting off our ego and being humble and coming back to that point. And I love when he says that, when he brings that up. And what does that do? It gives us a different window of life, and it gives us a much more positive outlook on life. And, for me, I would say that blissful feeling, that inner blissful happiness and joy that I touch on every morning when I'm in my practice is that thing that just keeps me going and going and going with it. I love that it does that for me, and I love that I can just, emanate that out into the world. And more people doing that is what we need. I think this COVID thing is doing that. There's even, if I take it to an extreme, Emma, there's gang wars out there that are making peace with each other. I'm reading in the news, the view over the Himalayas. People are seeing it because the fog is gone. So there's not a lot of positive aspects that are coming out of this as well. And you get time to do breathing now. You get time to dust your ego off every morning. And it does make us less quick to anger, less quick to feel negative emotions like fear.
Exactly.
All those things. So yeah, that for me, is something. That yoga therapy book is all about how, if we're given the right environment, that we do heal and that we do prepare, and that we don't need quite as much as what we think we need to make us happy.
And how wonderful nature is, human nature and nature in general.
It's all out. It's all out there, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's there for us to access. Nature wants us to access that.
As you say, hopefully this is the pause that we all needed to be able to look at the world in a different light.
Absolutely.
Is there anything else? You've covered some amazing topics today. Is there anything that we've not covered that you feel you want to share?
That I feel I want to share? I think we've done a pretty good job.
Quite a good job we have. We've covered a lot. And
I hope I've done a pretty good job.
You have. Excellent.
I just, for me, that is pranayama very much, as you say. It's the one thing that's been ignored a lot in modern teacher trainings. It's the one thing that people don't have the knowledge of. So they skip round it because they're really not sure of what to teach or how to approach it. And that's the one thing that I've really swam in that sea of. And I would say, do go and seek it out.
And I'm glad that
you go and seek it out and look for a little bit more of it in your life, because even a little bit of that, even 10 minutes of that every day, that lasts for 24 hours. It will last you till you're back on your mat the next morning. And that's scientifically proven as well. That's not just me saying it does. That's scientifically evidenced. When you go to the gym, it's a short burst and it's over. Gym, other types of breathing, they're very much up here in the chest or the lungs. And we get right down into the belly and we use that like we use it in pranayama. The effects last you, they're with you all day. And it's accumulative. So you do it to the point where you can advance and advance, but always do look out a qualified yoga instructor who knows what they're doing when it comes to breathing.
And I think it's great that someone, like you, a shining light that can help us teachers as well, who have maybe shied away from it a little for that fact that they're a bit cautious about what to teach, that we have someone that we can come to and get that advice. And the fact that everything is talking respiratory, that maybe people will stop thinking of it as those funny breathing exercises that you do that make funny noises, rather than, and now think of it actually, it's the link to the illness that's happening now, but it's also the way out of a lot of ailments as well.
Ailments as well, absolutely. 100%.
So we're inspired. I'm definitely going to up my game on the pranayama. I have been doing some of my classes, which they're not used to that often, but they've received it quite well. But I've got a few extra tips there, which will be fabulous. So where can people find you if they want to get in touch with you? You've talked a bit about Glasgow, but how do you find you online?
I do have a little website. I do need to do a lot of work on advertising myself. I'm quite bad at that. That's my serious down point. However, I've got a website, yogaglasgow.com, and you can also email me if you want to find anything out. And I'm Siobhan at yogaglasgow.com. is my email address. So if there's any questions that you have that you've maybe been listening today, I'm more than happy to share that knowledge with you. That's what I want to do. That's the whole purpose of all these journeys to India, is I'm grounded in it. I know exactly why and what and where and when, and I'm more than happy to share that knowledge. I would say that, there's little bits on the website about it. I do need to put a lot more work in there. I am trying to do some little Vimeos that I can actually put clips on the website as well. And now that I've actually got the time to do that, that's actually a little project that I've got that I'm setting up for myself next week, is that I'm going to start doing these clips. I'm going to start embedding them so that the links are on the website. So the techniques that we spoke about today, I should have them up within the next week or so on my website, so that you can link into them and practice with me. Please join me on Sunday at Merchant City Yoga Zoom, or any other month. I think we're programmed right through anyway, so the date's up on the calendar.
And people can start at any time. They don't have to
start at any
time.
Absolutely. And usually I'll give direction to those that are at the beginning, and those that are more advanced just carry on.
And you're online at the moment, so if people can't even make it to you, they can come and join you online.
Absolutely. Yes.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a very insightful chat that we've had, and your knowledge is extremely advanced. So we will be looking to you over the next few weeks and months and years to get some extra pranayama work.
I really appreciate being asked on, Emma, and I'm glad if I can share that, and if people can take little snippets of that today, then that makes me happy too.
Thanks for tuning in to Voices of Yoga, and we hope you feel inspired. You can find more of our free podcasts at www.voicesofyoga.com, and we are on all the main podcast platforms too. We are very open to comments and suggestions, so if you'd like to also leave us a review on iTunes, that would be fantastic. If you would like to know when the most recent podcast is going to be broadcast, you can sign up to our newsletter on the website, and we will drop you an email with that recent update. Voices of Yoga is our passion project, and if you like what we're doing and you would like to support us, it would be very much appreciated. And you can do that through a very small donation on our website on the donation button if you feel so inclined. If you would like to collaborate with us in terms of sponsorship, advertising, or even suggest coming on and being a guest, then please drop us an email at voicesofyoga@mail.com. So thanks again, and we look forward to bringing you another inspiring yoga story next week. Namaste.